بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره. Inshallah, we want to complete our section on actions of God, bi'Iznillah, a very important section of the book. So we thank Allah for tawfiq to reach this point, and we ask Him for help to continue. There are two issues remaining. 17 المسألة السابعة عشرة is في الأسعار, is about the price, or more accurately, you can say the return for something. And the next مسألة الثامنة عشرة في الأصلح, about the most suitable, the most useful option. The second one is more important for us, so inshallah we will go quickly to the second one. المسألة السابعة عشرة في الأسعار. قال والسعر تقدير العوض الذي يباع به الشئ وهو رخص وغلاء ولا بد من اعتبار العادة واتحاد الوقت والمكان ويستند إليه تعالى وإلينا أيضا. Khaji rahmatullah alayh says that السعر is the amount of return by which something is purchased. So if, for example, I purchase a book or a computer or a watch, I should give something as evaz, as a return for what I'm taking. It can be cash, then they call it thaman. But sometimes it's not cash, sometimes I give another good or a service, then they call it sa'r. So sa'r is more general than thaman. Therefore he says laysa huwa thaman, it's not thaman, because thaman has to be cash. Walal muthman, because muthman is what I take and I pay in return for that. So that book or that computer or watch, that is muthman. So sa'r is the return that we give when we buy something. Sometimes it is rakhs wa ghala, means sometimes it is cheap, sometimes it's expensive. So it shows that there must be something that is expected to be a fair, for example, return, and if it is less than that or more than that, then it becomes cheap or expensive. وَلَا بُدَّ مِنْ اعتبار العادة, and it is the habit, is a conventional method that for that thing that we take, we have to give something. But the return, the measure, the quantity of return depends on the time and space as well. So if I want to say it is cheaper or more expensive, it should be in the same time, the same place. Inshallah, Allah gives example. For example, I cannot say ice is very cheap, and I mean in winter. It should be in the same time. For example, in summer, if there is an expectation about price, then if it is sold less, it's cheaper. But if it is in winter, you cannot say it's a cheap price. Or in the mountain, when there are lots of natural ice, it should be the same time, same place. ويستند إليه تعالى وإلينا. السعر or expensiveness and cheap, to be cheap. This aspect of the السعر, to be more precisely. In some version it says يستندان, means as رخص والغلاء. But even if it is السعر, means in this aspect. Sometimes it is attributed to Allah. Allah causes increase or decrease in السعر, sometimes to us, we human beings. For example, if something is very much available, plenty of supply, for example, for agricultural products, lots of rain, there has been lots of supply, price goes down. This is attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If there is a shortage of, for example, rain, then price can go high. This is attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But sometimes someone tries to buy everything in the market and then sell it later more expensive. So this is attributed to human beings, this expensiveness. أقول. Now let's see what Allama explains. السعر هو تقدير العوض الذي يباع به الشئ. السعر is measuring the return with which something is purchased. وليس هو الثمن ولا المثمن. And السعر is different from thaman and muthman. It's different from thaman because thaman, although it's return, but it's cash. For example, say this is £5. This is the thaman. But if, for example, I give another good, or for example, say I work for you, for example, you give me this and I will work for you, I offer the service or I paint for you, clean, So these are all called سعر, but thaman, no, has to be cash. And muthman is the other side, what we buy, for which we have to pay, that is muthman. وهو ينقسم إلى رخص وغلاء. Sometimes it is divided with respect to the amount to these two. Rakhis, in modern Arabic now we say rakhis, means cheap. Ghali from ghala means expensive. فالرخص هو السعر المنحط أما جرت به العادة. So there is an عادة, there is something expected, a conventional expectation of price. If it is منحط, it's lower than what is عادة, what is ordinary. مع اتحاد الوقت والمكان, in the same time and same place, then we can say it is cheap. But make sure that it is the same time and same place. والغلاء زيادة السعر عما جرت به العادة مع اتحاد الوقت والإمكان. غلاء is to be more than what is ordinary, but in the same time and place. وإنما اعتبرنا الزمان والمكان. The reason we considered zaman and makan as conditions, لأنه لا يقال إن الثلج قد رخص سعره في الشتاء عند النزول الثلج لأنه ليس أوان بيعه. We don't say the price of ice in winter is cheap because this is the time of نزول الثلج, when it's snowing. if it becomes very cheap, they don't call it cheap. This is another time. It has to be the same time. If I buy in hot summer ice, $10 for example per kilo in a desert, in a station or service, and someone says, you know, this is expensive. In winter I purchased every kilo 10 cents, for example. You say, no, this is not cheap. You are talking about another time. لأنه ليس أوان بيعه. The time of selling snow or ice is not winter. ويجوز أن يقال رخص في الصيف إذا نقص سعره عما جرت به عادته في ذلك الوقت. If in summer, the same time, the price is lower than what is عادة, what is habitual, what is, you know, customary price, then we can say it's cheap. This was about time. Time has to be the same. Place also has to be the same. For example, if in mountains, if you go to mountains, over there is very cheap, but we don't say this is rakhis, because it technically, from theological perspective, it has to be in the same place, not, you know, in the mountains where يدوم نزوله فيها. Maybe throughout the year always is snowing. If you go to, you know, Mount Everest, it's always snow there. But we can say the price is rakhis if in the same bilad, the same land, the same place, it's lower than what is customary or what is habitually the price. Okay. Then we said يستند إليه تعالى وإلينا. In the same place and the same time, to be cheap and expensive can be sometimes because of what Allah has done, of course through his world, his system in nature, or can be what human beings have done. Under him, of course, everything in the end is up to him. But when we have voluntary human action, then we have to be responsible. واعلم أن كل واحد من الرخص والغلاء قد يكون من قبله تعالى بأن يقلل جنس المتاع المعين ويكثر رغبة الناس إليه. To be cheap or expensive is sometimes from him, من قبله. For example, he يقلل, he reduces. تقليل means to make قليل, to make little. So he reduces جنس المتاع, that material of that thing. For example, it's wheat, it's barley, it's, I don't know, cotton. Maybe 1 year it's very little. Therefore, raghba of people, yearning of people becomes more. When supply is less, then demand becomes more. فَيَحْصُلُ الْغَلَى, then expensiveness happens. Why Allah may do that? We are not talking about when people artificially make things expensive. That is discussed later. But why sometimes there is, for example, less rain and then something becomes more expensive? لِمَصْلَحَةِ الْمُكَلَّفِينَ, because there can be a maslaha. For example, they are tested. They are given opportunity to help each other. They are given opportunity to be patient and get reward. Or it's a way for them to understand how to advance science, technology, make dams, etc. وَقَدْ يَكْثُرُ جِنْسُ ذَلِكَ الْمَتَاعِ, or we can say Allah يُكْثِرُ جِنْسَ ذَلِكَ الْمَتَاعِ. Sometimes Allah increases that material of that thing, like we have plenty of cotton, for example, in this season, and therefore reduces the yearning and demand of people. رغبة الناس for this material becomes less. تفضلا منه تعالى, as his favor. وإنعاما, he wants to gift and have, generosity. أو لمصلحة دينية, or there is a religious benefit, for example, so that everyone can fast, for example, this year. فيحصل الرخص, then for this cheapness happens. So this is about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وقد يحصلان من قبلنا, both رخص والغلاء can happen from our side. For example, بأن يحمل السلطان الناس على بيع تلك السلعة بسعر غالٍ. For example, maybe the king, the ruler, forces people to buy something with an expensive price because, for example, maybe he has monopoly over it or he gets some percentage, so he forces people to buy this with an expensive price. ظلما منه, out of injustice from the king. Or maybe لاحتكار الناس, some people, حكرة or احتكار means some people buy, accumulate, but they don't offer. They keep it in their stores and wait for price to go high and then they sell it. So this is also can be one reason. أو لمنع الطريق خوف الظلمة, or there's a difficulty in transportation because it can be confiscated or robbed by ظالمين. أو لغير ذلك من الأسباب المستندة إلينا, or because of other reason. For example, we make mistake in assessment. For example, some years happens that 1 year onion becomes very expensive. Next year many people grow onion, then it becomes very cheap. Then next year, because it was very cheap, people may not grow enough, then it becomes very expensive. So it can sometimes is for other reasons. فيحصل الغلاء, so this expensiveness happens. وقد يحمل السلطان, this is about expense, to be expensive. For being cheap, قد يحمل السلطان الناس على بيع السلعة برخص ظلما. Sometimes the king, the government, forces people to buy, to sell their products very cheap. For example, says to the farmers or to for example, those who produce milk, etc., you have to sell it with this price, and they reduce the price. Maybe if the market was free, it was not as cheap as this. أو يحملهم على بيع ما في أيديهم من جنس ذلك المتاع. For example, there is a shortage. They say everyone who has this in their stocks, they have to bring it to the market. All of a sudden, supply increases. فيحصل الرخص, then price goes down. You may say, what is the point in discussing this? Because this didn't seem to be a theological issue. It seemed to be more something about economy. It seems that the reason is because we were talking about العوض, عوض, return. So we needed to clarify, if, for example, someone's good is taken away, what is return? There must be عوض. What is return? And in order to have a good understanding, we have to say that what is given as return has an kind of average quantity, and it can be higher and low. But that average one is the main thing, that if someone harms someone, has to give this to that person. or if Allah does something, He would give much more than this so that that person would be fully satisfied, if general wisdom requires something that's be taken away from someone. The next issue is very important discussion. المسألة الثامنة عشرة في الأصلح. أصلح comes from salah. Salih means righteous or qualified or suitable. Aslah means something which is most suitable, most righteous. It can be used in different senses, in different contexts. The core issue is this. If you understand this, then the text would become easy. The core issue is this. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wise. We know that He would not do any dhulm, and He would not fail to do what is wajib. La yukhillu bil wajib. And indeed, He would do what is lutf. Lutf for Him is necessary, because this is the only thing that matches that unlimited essence of kindness and mercy, etc. So, He doesn't do zulm, He doesn't fail to do wajib, He does ihsan, He does lutf. Now the question is, does He need to always bring forth the best option, or if it is just good is fine? For example, suppose someone is an artist, a painter. Because he's an artist and he loves art, he would not make something ugly, something which is bad. But does he need always to do his best painting or not? With respect to human beings, maybe we say, sometimes people are tired, sometimes people are in hurry, sometimes maybe they don't have the best paper or best, paint or, color available, etc. So maybe they don't always do the best. But what about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah is not in a hurry. Allah has no shortage. It's not going to make Him tired. What is easy or difficult, it's for us easy or difficult. For Him, everything is the same. Everything is hayyan for Him. Everything is easy for Him. Therefore, some mutakallimin, some theologians have said Allah would always do the best. Some mutakallimin have said He does the best in religious issues, when there is maslaha diniyah. But He doesn't need to give the best of dunya. Not that He cannot, but His wisdom doesn't require that He gives the best. Khaja rahmatullah alayhi and some Shia theologians, not all of them, but some of them said we have to make distinction. If there is da'i, if there is a good reason, if there is a wise purpose for giving, because why should Allah give to every person everything possible? Maybe we don't need that. Maybe we would be corrupted by that, for example. If there is a reason, and if there is no problem, nothing that would cause a problem. So if you remember, for example, in Kalam and philosophy, we say sometimes there must be مقتضی and no obstacle. مقتضی موجود، مانع مفقود. Yeah. So here there must be da'i, so a motive, a reason, and no sarif, nothing that would override this, something that would be blocking this. So people like Khaja rahmatullah alayhi, they said in such circumstances Allah would definitely do the best and give the best. But if there is no motive, there is no benefit, no interest, or if there is another thing that can override a kind of obstacle, then he may not give the best or bring forth the best. So now let's see the variety of ideas among Ash'arites, Mu'tazilites, and then the idea of the Khaja. المسألة الثامنة عشرة في الأصلح. Problem 18 about أصلح. What is most suitable, or the best. قال والأصلح قد يجب. Khaja says أصلح sometimes becomes necessary, not always, sometimes. When is that? لوجود الداعي وانتفاء الصارف. When there is da'i, motive, and there is no sarif. Sarif means something that is an obstacle, something that takes away. If you remember, also in Usul al-Fiqh, when we talked about majaz, we said in majaz we need qariniyya sarifah, an evidence that takes us away from its literal meaning. For example, if someone says رأيت أسدا يرمي, I saw a lion that was shooting. This shooting, yarmi, is called qariniyya sarifah, is an evidence that tells us lion here doesn't mean that animal, means rajul shuja, a brave person, not that wild animal. This is called qariniyya sarifah. So sarifah from sarf means is taking away our mind from the literal meaning. And here sarif means an obstacle that doesn't let that da'i be acted upon. أقول اختلف الناس هنا. Allama rahmatullah alayhi says people means mutakallimin. We are not talking about non-theologians, we are talking about mutakallimin. They have different opinions. فقال الشيخان, Sheikh Abu Ali and Sheikh Abu Hashim, Mu'tazilites, وأصحابهما and their followers, إن الأصلح ليس بواجب على الله. They said Aslah is not necessary for Allah to bring. وقال البلخي إنه واجب وهو مذهب البغداديين وجماعة من البصريين. Baghdadiyin and some of Basriyin, they have the same opinion. وقال أبو الحسين البصري إنه يجب في حال دون حال. Abu al-Husayn al-Basri has made distinction. He said sometimes it is necessary, sometimes not. We call it قائل بتفصیل شدن. In Hausa, we say قائل بتفصیل شده. What does it mean? It means that he's bringing a kind of distinction. Neither all the time yes, nor all the time no. We make distinction. وهو اختيار المصنف. Khaja also has chosen this view because he said قد يجب, sometimes it becomes necessary, and he said that is when there is da'i and no mane, no obstacle. وتحرير صورة النزاع, to articulate the issue. What's the problem? What is the debate about? أن الله تعالى إذا علم انتفاع زيد بإيجاد قدر من المال له. The example is about worldly issues. Remember, I said some people say in religious issues, when there is maslaha diniya, it's acceptable. Even some people have brought some hadith from at-Tawheed by Sheikha Saduq, but they seem to be for maslaha diniya. This example is about worldly thing, that maybe there is maslaha diniya, maybe there is no maslaha diniya, we will see. إذا علم انتفاع زيد بإيجاد قدر من المال له. If Allah knows that Zayd would benefit by Allah creating for him some money, if Allah gives him, for example, 10,000 pounds, he would benefit. And he knows وانتفاء الضرر به في الدين, he benefits from this money and he would not lose in religiosity. There is no harm in religion for him or for others. Others also should not be harmed. He is also not harmed. Because sometimes if I have money, I become rich, then I may lose my humility, humbleness, for example. Or sometimes maybe other people, suffer because they see I have, they don't have, or family pressures put pressure on them. And it's so suppose there is no dharar fi din for himself, for Zayd, وعن غيره من المكلفين, and no other mukallaf would also be harmed. So this money is good for him and there is no harm for him or others. هل يجب إيجاد ذلك القدر له أم لا? Is it necessary for Allah to give him that much money? He would benefit if he has 10,000 pounds and there is no harm in his iman or others. Is it necessary that Allah gives him this much or not? احتج الموجبون, those who say it is wajib. Mujibun means those who believe in wujub, Allah. They do ijab. They have argued in this way. They said, أن لله تعالى داعيا إلى إيجاده. Allah has a motive to give because it's benefiting this person. وَلَيْسَ لَهُ صَارِفٌ عنه, and there is nothing to affect his motive. No problem for him, no problem for that person, no problem for other mukallafin. فَيَجِبُ ثُبُوتُهُ, so it's necessary. لأن مع الثبوت القدرة, because when Allah has قدرة, ووجود الداعي, and there is reason for it, there's a motive. وانتفاء الصارف, and there is no obstacle, يجب الفعل, then it's necessary. What is da'i? وبيان تحقق الداعي, the explanation of having motive here is this: أنه إحسان خال عن جهات المفسدة. If this person has, this Zayd has 10,000 pounds, it's ihsan for him, it's a help for him, he can benefit. And there is no mafsada, there is no harm here. Allah has the power, has the means, no shortage, would not harm this person, would not harm other mukallafin. So why he shouldn't give? أنه إحسان خال عن جهات المفسدة وبيان انتفاء الصارف. You said there should be no sarif if there is no sarif, because here أن المفاسد منتفية, there is no mafsada here. Suppose there is no mafsada, his iman, his akhlaq, his humility would not be affected. ولا مشقة فيه, there is no difficulty in this, for Allah is not difficult. So then he should give. But those who say no, it is not wajib, واحتج النفاة. Nufat is the plural for nafi. Means those who negate, who say it's not wajib. They say بأن وجوبه يؤدي إلى المحال. They said, okay, what you say makes sense, but we have another problem. If giving £10,000 is good in this case and it's wajib, what about £11,000? You say good? Okay, what about 12,000? Then what about £1,000,000? What about £1,000,000,000? So there is no limit, and therefore it becomes muhal to give something with infinite. In this world we cannot give infinite, so it becomes muhal. بأن وجوبه يؤدي إلى المحال. They said if we say this ihsan is wajib upon Allah, then it would lead to something which is impossible. And anything which leads to something impossible should be rejected in the first place. ما يؤدي إلى المحال محال فيكون محالا. بيان الملازمة. How it becomes, muhal, why it leads to impossible, option. بيان الملازمة أننا لو فرضنا انتفاء المفسدة في الزائدة على ذلك القدر وثبوت المصلحة. If we say that more than £10,000 is also no problem, suppose is not a problem. He benefits from £10,000, he benefits from £11,000, he benefits from £12,000. If there is no problem, there is also maslaha because he can benefit. فَإِنْ وَجَبَ إِيجَادُهُ. If you say, therefore it's necessary to give him 10,000, it's necessary to give him 11,000, it's necessary to give him 100,000. If you go like this, لَذَمَ وَقُوءُ مَا لَا نِهَايَةَ لَهُ. So if you open this gate, then you cannot close it. Basically, if I want to make it simple, when you open this, then you cannot close it. لأننا نفرض ذلك في كل زاد. Because about every additional amount we can say the same thing. He can benefit, there is no harm. Suppose وإن لم يجب, but if you say no, it's not necessary in the first place, okay, ثبت البطل, then that is what we wanted, that we say even 10,000 was not necessary. قال أبو الحسين, and Abu al-Husayn's view is like Khaja. قائل بتفصيل means they believe in distinction, that neither all the time nor not at all. He says إذا كان ذلك القدر مصلحة خالية عن المفسدة. If that amount is only maslah, only interest, وَكَانَ الزَّائِدُ عَلَيْهِ مَفْسَدَةً. 10,000 was okay, but 11,000 is a problem, or 100,000 is a problem. Okay, stop there. Don't go to that level which causes problem. Why you want to close the gate altogether? You say, for example, after some time it becomes impossible. Okay, we say as much as it is possible, as much as it is manageable in this world, as much as this world can take it, for example. So كان الزائد عليه مفسدة, and the additional one has مفسدة. وجب عليه أن يعطيه ذلك القدر. So he must give him that much, which was not a problem. Why? لوجود الداعي وانتفاء الصارف, because there was a motive and no obstacle. And if لم يكن إذا لم يكن في الزائد مفسدة إلى غير النهاية, if there is no mafsada, in some case, suppose this person is a very humble person, no problem going to be caused for other mukallafin, and it can increase. فإنه تعالى قد يفعل ذلك القدر وقد لا يفعل. Then Allah may give or may not give. But this is when we know that it's not going to cause problem. Here Mutakallimin have mentioned something. If you have a commentary or footnote by Ayatollah Subhani, he has explained it very well. Here Abu Hussein Basri says something about mashaqqa, which Ayatollah Subhani says this doesn't suit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, for example, if for example there is a poor person, I can give him 10 pounds. But if there are 10 poor people and each of them are the same, if I wanted to give to one of them, they are all the same and I would have given. But now that I see there are 10 people and all expect from me, I may give or may not give at all, because it's mashaqqa for me. I may decide not to give at all because I cannot give to all the 10 people. I need, either I don't have money or I need this money for other reasons. So then it's not necessary for me in this case. In the case of just one person, was okay. And if I'm a generous person, I should give. But when there are 10, no. So إذا لم يكن في الزائد مفسدة إلى غير النهاية. If in zaid there was no mafsada endlessly or up to infinite amount, there was no problem, Allah may give or may not give, because it has become too much. Like when there are 10 or 100 poor people, they want to say mashaqqa or impossibility are good reasons that after some time we may not give. Therefore it becomes like a sarif. Sarif doesn't need to be just mafsada. When something becomes more difficult, this is also a good reason not to give. So إذا لم يكن في الزائد مفسدة إلى غير النهاية. If up to even endless amount there is no mafsada, still فإنه تعالى قد يفعل ذلك القدر وقد لا يفعل. Allah may give or may not. We cannot say it's wajib for him. Why? لأن من دعاه الداعي إلى الفعل وكان ذلك الداعي حاصلا في فعل ما يشق. Because what motivated to action, if it's in something which is يشق, مشقة, is difficult, فإن ذلك يجري مجرى الصارف. This becomes like having obstacle. Even to be difficult is enough to say, I don't want to be into difficult situation. فيصير الداعي مترددا بين الداعي والصارف. Then this motive for giving this person endless amount, at the same time that it's a motive, at the same time it's a sarif, it's an obstacle, because I don't want to give this much. فلا يجب الفعل ولا الترك. So it's up to me. Neither it's necessary to give, neither it's necessary not to give. وتمثل, and Abu Hussein has mentioned an example. Of course, as I said, for Allah, mashaqqa doesn't count. The example is this: بأن من دعاه الداعي على دفع درهم إلى فقير. Suppose there is a person that has motive to give 1 dirham to a poor person. He has money, he's generous, there's a needy person, he wants to give him 1 dirham. وَلَمْ يَظْهَرْ لَهُ ضَرَرٌ فِي دَفْعِهِ. There is no sarif, there is no harm which is known to this person, to the giver. لَمْ يَظْهَرْ لَهُ, nothing is known to him that is going to cause problem. فَإِنَّهُ يَدْفَعُهُ إِلَيْهِ, so therefore he gives this dirham to poor person. But فَإِنْ حَضَرَهُ مِنَ الْفُقَرَاءِ جَمَاعَةٌ, but if a group of poor people are there, are present, يَكُونُ الدَّفْعُ إِلَيْهِمْ مُسَاوِيًا لِلدَّفْعِ إِلَى الْأَوَّلِ, and all of them are the same. These 10 people are like the same person that was alone. وَيَشُقُّ عَلَيْهِ الدَّفْعُ إِلَيْهِمْ, but it's difficult for him to give to all of them. لِحُصُولِ الضَّرَرِ, because then he would lose money. Here we can say فَإِنَّهُ قَدْ يَدْفَعُ الدِّرْهَمَ إِلَى الْفَقِيرِ مِنْهُمْ وَقَدْ لَا. He may give to 1 person or not give. You cannot say you have to give 1 person, if becomes 2 you have to give to 2, if becomes 10 you have to give to 10. No. If it was 1 I was giving, now it become 10, I may give, I may not give, because it's now difficult for me. This is the example of Abu al-Hussein. فَإِذَا كَانَ حُصُولُ الدَّاعِ فِيمَا يَشُقُّ. So if da'i, with respect to these cases which are difficult, يَقْتَضِي تَجْوِيزَ الْعَدَمِ, would require that we give chance of not giving, we permit not giving. What about those things which is impossible, like endless? فَحُصُولُهُ فِيمَا يَسْتَحِيلُ وُجُودُهُ أَوْلَى. So in the case that it's impossible to happen because you want to give endless money to this person, then here the problem is more. لِانْتِفَاعِ الْفِعْلِ مَعْهُ, because it's not possible to act. فَلِهَذَا قَالَ, therefore he said, قَدْ يَجِبُ الْأَصْلَحِ فِي بَعْضِ الْأَحْوَالِ دُونَ بَعْضِ. He said sometimes it's necessary to give the best, sometimes not. وَلِلنُّفَاةِ وُجُوهٌ أُخَرَ ذكرناها في كتاب نهاية المرام على الاستقصاء. He says those who have rejected this necessity, they have other points that in our book نهاية المرام we have mentioned. على الاستقصاء means in an exhausting way. Of course, Ayatollah Subhani says, unfortunately, the version of Nahayatul Maram that we have doesn't reach this point. Unfortunately, that book, which was very detailed book of Allame, is not with us altogether, its entirety. So, what is the summary of this discussion? The summary is this, that when something is known, I have to say, that unfortunately, because our knowledge is very limited, sometimes we don't know what is maslaha, what is mafsada. I may say to Allah subhanahu, oh Allah, why you don't give me £1 million right now? It is maslaha and no one is going to be harmed. Who said that? Who said that it is maslaha and no one, neither myself nor other people, would be harmed by that? You don't know. Therefore, it's very difficult to apply it. But in theory, it's mostly theoretical. Anything that Allah knows, anything that in reality has maslaha, and there is no problem going to be caused by that for me or other mukallafin, Allah would do it. Why? Because He has the knowledge, He has the power, He has the unlimited supply. Why He should do the second best? why he should not do the wisest, the best option? For sure, he would do always the best. If I can, for example, I don't know, make as an engineer, I can make very good house or very good, I don't know, machine. Why the next time I should make something less perfect? If I have the knowledge, I have the experience, I have all the money, I have all the time, all the helpers, I have no rush, it's not going to make me tired. Why I should go to less? For sure, I would not go to less. Allah would never do something which is second best or third best. But what is important is that you have to have that wisdom to understand what is the best, especially when it comes to details, to a small. As a whole world, yes, it's the best. But this physical world has lots of limitations inside. And we cannot understand how much capacity was there which was not filled. For sure, we believe every capacity is filled, as much as Allah is concerned, in the sense that if there was any way of sending more good to this world, more light to this world, he would have done it. This cannot take more. So Khaja rahmatullah alayh has this idea that Allah definitely does the best, provided that there is da'i, there is a reason, there is a motive, and there is no sarif, there is no problem going to be caused for me or other mukallafeen. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.